Carolina Pickleball Club is a premier organization dedicated to providing a welcoming and competitive environment for pickleball players in Kannapolis. They are passionate about promoting the sport among seasoned players and beginners alike, offering skill-based competitions that challenge and inspire. Go visit our friends at the Carolina Pickleball Club, 724 Chipola Street in Kannapolis, and tell them the Rough Talk Cousins at the K-Town Connection sent you.
Oh man, cousin Chris, what are you doing over there? I see you got a can of SunDrop today, not a glass bottle.
Where's your glass bottle?
I got a plastic one.
Dang, killing sea turtles or something.
Well, this one's used.
At least, but the can is cold.
No, it is. This one's not cold.
I can tell it's the same one you had sit at your office desk like
it
2
is.
hours ago.
Well, no, actually, it's a different one.
Dang, you have more than one SunDrop a day?
If you combine them all together, it's probably one. I just dumped out.
Wasteful.
Yeah, I just dumped out half of a can.
Wow, no chance. That's awful.
When it gets hot, it's no good.
Man, you got to drink that SunDrop. That's the nectar of the gods, they say.
Too busy.
Too busy.
Too busy to finish one.
Too busy. Well, let's stay on the too busy. Wavelength. What's going on in your world?
Too busy.
Too busy.
Too busy.
Any babies yet?
Not yet. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe Sunday. Maybe Friday.
The K2 twins.
Depending on when Dr. Campbell says go.
The K2 twins. Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, K2 twins.
How about that?
They're girls in pink. So I mean,
Dr. Dave, how's the weather?
Did you say pollen?
Yeah, no doubt. And also this week I can say brr. Hey,
it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, geez.
What happened to summer?
Well, I told you last week there was a cool snap coming this week. And I believe, but it's still early April, and this is actually a great spring, really, so far. And but we are having up and down. Starts out chilly, and you have to layer, and then by the end of the day, it's in the 70s. So, but it's going to be real nice toward the weekend. There's no chance of rain, and through the weekend.
That's good.
That's a good thing about it. But we did wash. We had a good rain on Sunday. All day rain, and that washed a lot of the pollen away. But there's still a ban on burning. It's just windy, and the lower humidity conditions are making it so that's about impossible to have fireworks or anything going on opening weekend.
Sure, I came back from our spring break trip out to Las Vegas, by the way. We put that out there.
No mill guys going to Las Vegas.
Hey, there was a lot of mill guys out there, by the way. But I digress. I was only 2 days late on my normal mowing day, and my grass was like 4 inches taller than it normally is. Like it kept bogging the lawnmower down. It took 2 hours to mow the grass yesterday.
This is the season. It's a 2 a week day.
No,
2 times.
No doubt.
I think I read somewhere where only Concord High School grads go to Las Vegas for spring break.
Well, I didn't go to Concord High School, and you know that, so we'll leave that. In fact, why do you?
I didn't mean to say that.
I was going to say.
Sorry.
Can you cut that out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that town down yonder.
Well, I was down there earlier. Been down there multiple times this week.
Hey, speaking of down yonder, had the kids here Monday. I guess it's Monday before they went home. My daughter was here visiting, my son. And we were having a conversation with Ryan out here on the back steps, talking about over there, down yonder, right here, all that good stuff. Can we recap that? Like, where's down yonder?
Well, that's in a southern direction. It's down yonder.
Down yonder.
And then up yonder
up
is
yonder.
In northern direction. And over yonder can go east or west, depending on which way you're facing.
Uptown or downtown?
Well, it depends.
That's right.
I mean,
if you're in North Kannapolis or you're in Midway.
Yep.
That's right. And kind of where we're at here, I mean, sort of downtown Kannapolis is kind of, let's go uptown. Because that's 2 words at that point. You're going uptown. Not you're going to town, you're going uptown.
Well,
and then, if you're kind of, if you're in Landis, you're going to say we're going to go down to Kannapolis. Down to Kannapolis.
Or we're going up to Salisbury.
Or up to Salisbury, yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you have to say that? You know what? We're going to Salisbury.
When I remember being a kid, you remember when you're a kid and your mom works at the mill, and when you get paid, you go to town to pay bills. You go to each individual store and pay your bill.
Just go pay bills.
Go to town, pay the power bill.
And go pay the water bill, the power bill, the phone bill at each individual place.
That's right.
Man, crazy times. You mentioned the weather. Got a lot of stuff going on. The food line. Is it still the food line auto fair?
No, it's not.
Dang, I'm way behind.
I think it's O'Reilly. I think this year and last year it was O'Reilly Auto Fair.
I believe you're right.
Yeah,
that does ring a bell.
Food Line quit several years ago.
Dang,
unfortunately.
I have to cut that part out.
Yeah.
When does it starts tomorrow?
Yeah, it starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I might take my boys there this weekend. Go check out some cars.
Should be perfect Saturday.
Could be. I could be babysitting though. You never know. I might have to babysit the dad. I have to give him some butt wiping tips.
That might need to be the number one priority of yours. Yeah.
I saw where it hit this week, Chuck, that the concert series hit. Tell me if you've announced any of these bands back in the day. June 6th, Cheap Trick. I'm sure you've spun a few of their records in the day at Z100.
Man, I am so pumped about that one there. I love Cheap Trick. That's one of my top 5 all time. I mean, they have just got some awesome songs. They could do without a cover band and just do a straight 2-hour. Yeah.
How about that? June 20th, I think this is one of your favorites. Josh Turner. You ever heard of him?
I think so. I think he's a South Carolina. He's from Down Yonder in South Carolina.
Down Yonder. Then that June 27th, another Down Yonder place, the Charlotte Symphony Orchestra. They always put on a pretty good show. They do the fireworks, all that cool stuff. That's always a big one. And then here is my favorite one. Yeah. July the 11th, 7-Eleven.
The Four Tops.
You've spun plenty of those.
Yes, sir.
How many times you play Bernadette?
Bernadette's my favorite. Bernadette is my favorite Four Top song.
Back to back, bumper to bumper. There's more in a row with the Four Tops.
There you go.
On Z100. And then we're going to finish it up with, I have no clue who this guy is, Andy Grammer.
He's big time.
No clue.
He is
big time.
Don't know anything. Did you see the ones in the park this year?
Yeah.
They are every week.
They're
the
good.
Band of Oz.
Yes.
The Embers, Too Much Sylvia, Jim Quick and the Coastline. Then was it? I can't read my own writing.
River Mist.
Awesome Thursday nights there.
River Mist is a great new group. They're really good. Got a lot of songs on the top 10 beat stuff, North Myrtle, and great groups.
Cool deal. Well, we about ready to get this one started. I'm about to say exit, but episode 66. Let's go ahead and we
hadn't done this in a while. Yeah. Are you gonna run the intro this time, or are you gonna?
We might run an intro. I don't know if it'll be the intro, but it might be an intro. So let's do it again. Exit. Here I am. I'm still stuck on that exit. Episode 66. Let's do it for real.
Your premier Ford dealership is located here in Cabarrus County, where more than 70 years in the business lends to an incredible experience for every customer, every time. Whether you're looking for the toughness of an F-150, the spirit of a Bronco, or the versatility of an Explorer, you'll find it all at Hilbish Ford, your truck destination. Come experience the Hilbish difference in Kannapolis, just a 10-minute drive from Charlotte Motor Speedway, or get started online at hillbishford.com.
All right, guys, welcome back to the K-Town Connection. Rough Talk Cousins at it again. I am Chris Hughes alongside my Rough Talk cousin, Ryan Dayvault, and Chuck, Dr. Dave Irvin. You already got that weather report sponsored by the Z100. Now, I wish they were still in town, but they're not, but we've still got Chuck. But Ryan, we got a pretty cool guest, and I think we're going to have a really good conversation about all sorts of stuff here in the local community, racing, anything, I think it's going to be a good one. But as always, I'm going to let you do the honors and tell everybody who we're talking to today.
Well, today we got a good friend of mine for a long time now, Chris Gordon, native of Kannapolis. He went to the other school, but not Concord, but the other school in Kannapolis, Northwest Cabarrus, over yonder.
Not down yonder. He was over yonder.
Over yonder.
Yeah, we don't let the down yonder people be on the show. They got to be over yonder at least, or up yonder, south
Still
of the
in the city
land.
limits of Kannapolis.
That's right.
Yeah,
so you're good.
Yeah.
So got him on our show today. His family was really involved with racing back in the day, and of course he stayed involved with it for a long time himself. And then he's also doing some insurance stuff now. He's going to talk to us about, and it's a good combination show. It's a business type thing for telling about what he does, and then also a historic thing to talk about the racing heritage. So, Chris, thanks for coming, brother.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
And I know you watch our show, so you kind of know the way this goes, and so don't be afraid to get rough talked or rough talk us. It goes both ways.
Goes both ways.
It goes both ways. So I just start out, this week, let's see, today's Wednesday. So last week I was gifted a pile of newsletters from a friend through another guy that I've met kind of very randomly, actually, who used to be on Hayward Plyler's pit crew back in the day. And he had these newsletters. They're called motorsports newsletters, and they were focused on Concord Speedway and Metrolina and other places back in the day. And as I opened up a couple of them, looking at them, I opened one, and there was Chris's dad. And I thought, man, this is crazy. I mean, we talked about him being on the show, and then boom, there was something about his dad. So I'll just kind of open that up to you to talk about whatever. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, well, I can give you a little background on the racing side. I'm third generation in racing. My grandfather, a lot of people around this area knew Henry Gordon. He owned and promoted Metrolina for a while and was a car owner as well. My dad came along, and the actual newsletter you sent me, I had never seen this before, which is rare because people send me stuff all the time. But it's actually an article about him being the youngest car owner at 15 years old. He's got a head full of hair. Looks like he's about 37 in this picture. But that was for the times back then, I guess. This was around probably 73, I guess, 72, somewhere in there. But yeah, I mean, my dad actually built cars for Tiger Tom Pistone at his shop at 15, and got the wild hair, was going to build his own car one day. My granddad owned 4 or 5 teams, so just built the car, had it in my granddad's shop, but he was the car owner. And he had drivers like Chuck Piazza and guys like that from a lot of people in this area probably remember from back in the day that actually drove for him as a 15-year-old car owner. So really cool article, great story there. But like I said, my granddad owned racetracks and race teams, and actually got an Earnhardt connection on kind of both sides of my family. I'll start with that one first, though. Obviously, the pink car here behind Ryan, that was my Uncle Ray's car here in Kannapolis. David Oliver, his son, was my cousin. He was married to Kathy at the time. He was driving himself out at Metrolina in Concord. So my mom in high school would go watch her cousin David race, and met my dad at the racetrack. So they got married. Obviously, history is what it is, and here I am as a result of that. But so that's how they met, and obviously Dale was driving for David and Ray at the time. And then fast forward a few years, and Dale was actually driving for my grandfather on my dad's side, Henry Gordon, for a couple years there in the sportsman division at Metrolina in Concord.
Which car was that?
It was so that one was a black and silver number 8, and it had the B&G motors on the quarter panel, just like the one in the article here has. He ran that one for a while, and then obviously my dad was keeping the cars up for my grandpa and had his own cars in the shop at the time, and they got to be buddies and kind of hanging out with each other. And so what they would actually do is, once Dale, I guess, became famous and was, this is early 80s at the time, late 70s, early 80s, he was driving for, Osterlund and some of those guys. You still weren't making the millions of dollars these guys are making nowadays. So he would, on off weekends, he would actually come back and run these. They'd get appearance money to come run like Darlington Hartsville on Darlington weekend. They'd run that Friday night in the dirt late model stuff. And these track promoters would pay him $500,000 to come run these races. So Dale, knowing my dad had good equipment, and my dad was honestly, I don't say this because he's my dad, but he just had a knack for chassis. He was probably one of the smartest chassis guys around. All these race teams at one point were trying to hire him to be a crew chief, but he wanted to drive. He wanted to be. Even Dale told him one time, because you're too smart to drive these race cars. You need to be working on them. So he was super smart in that respect. Didn't matter what kind of car it was, he could make it go around the track. But so Dale, knowing that, even as a 16-year-old kid, he would get with my dad, and they would go do these. He'd say, "Hey, we're running Talladega this weekend. We're running Darlington this weekend. Bring the car down." He had a dirt late model. Bring it down here. We're running Hartsville Darlington on Friday, and they'd split the prize money. And I mean, they won a bunch of races doing that. Honestly, I got some articles at home where Dale was leading the race at Hartsville Darlington, hit a lap car on lap 8, and barrel rolled it down the backstretch, destroyed the car. But he was leading the race, like a half a track lead on everybody. So
wow.
He
was there.
He was there.
On lap 8.
There's an article of the car sitting out the bottom of the berm. Looks like something from the Cars movie, just totaled up and angled.
Oh,
but
man, that's crazy.
So it's pretty cool story. I had that on both sides of the family, and I got some crazy stories I'm sure we'll get into later about that. But that kind of progressed into me driving, and now I've got a daughter who races and some nephews that race out at Millbridge. So we're 4 generations deep at this point in the racing part of this thing.
About that.
And I was going to ask you that, if if there was still some racing in your
Yeah,
family.
oh, yeah.
Obviously, you mentioned you're the third generation, so now your daughter racing. That's really cool to kind of keep that family lineage and heritage going on. I was going to ask you, you mentioned the shop and stuff like your grandfather. Where were all y'all's cars built and run out of?
That's actually, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a cool thing because I'm going to go back in time here, back into the 70s and 80s. My granddad's shop was in downtown Charlotte on South Tryon Street. It was the Dave and Buster's for a while. I think it's changed to something else now, but that was literally the race shop, that brick building. So, I mean, they'd go out on Sundays and wash the cars and drive them up and down Trade and Tryon Street.
Oh, wow.
It was nothing back then, but you'd go to jail for that now. But I mean, that was
Just like there's been a bunch out in Ebenezer out here.
yeah, exactly. So it's a cool story. I mean, you can imagine just driving a sportsman car down Trade and Tryon at 2:00 on a Sunday afternoon nowadays. But
Man.
Imagine that noise echoing between them buildings. Oh, man, that'd be
so
great.
awesome.
Oh, man.
Charlotte is not the same as it was back then by any
No,
means. It
no
has grown
doubt.
quite
No
tremendously.
doubt. No doubt. I'm glad you mentioned David Oliver. I knew him growing up. I know he passed a handful of years ago, but
Here's an article about him and his dad.
Yeah.
Right.
Growing up and spent a lot of my early years living at my grandmother's house in little 403 Oak Circle, right down the hill from the mill, and Dave lived right next door to us. That's where I first learned, probably before I even went to kindergarten, what NASCAR racing was, and Dale Earnhardt, obviously from that connection. And I just had fond memories of him, working, I think it was the Levi Garrett crew and maybe
Hendrick,
Folgers and, for those guys. But, I'd run into him every now and then at some Boll Weevil games or some stuff like that back in the day. But I always liked David Oliver. Good man.
Yeah, great people, great family. Still in contact with a lot of that side of the family. Obviously, Martha Oliver's we're still good friends with her, talk to her all the time. So we're all still very tight knit. But yeah, it's like I was saying, I mean, if it wasn't for that connection with David and my mom wanted to watch him race, I wouldn't be here. So it's kind of cool how that connection all happened. So
Absolutely.
There's another kind of tie-in to the show as it relates to these newsletters. The guy's name is Ed Johnson, who gave us these. And he didn't know anything about our shows, and he's going to start watching them. So I want to shout his name out because he's just a great guy. But in an earlier show, we talked to Bobby Dayvault and the crew at Moose Pharmacy, Martin's Drug, and he brought up a guy that was famous in the racing world, Penny Brown. Penny Brown wrote these poems for this newsletter, actually. And if you, right on the inside, I don't know if that one's got one, it starts, this is the first volume of these things, 1 through 15, and I don't think the first volume actually had a poem in there, but it's at the very bottom corner called Penny's Corner. And it's got all these poems that he wrote, and they're really cool. And there was one I was wanting to read. I just got to find it.
this might be this one. It's called the K-Town Sprinter.
That's it.
I figured that was it.
And
Yeah.
you can read it if you want to.
You're gonna put my poetry voice to work.
Yeah.
Clear your throat.
K-Town Sprinter by Penny. Hayward Plyler took another race, and the Concord track was the place. All night long he led the pack around and around the old racetrack. The K-Town Sprinter is a running strong as he sings a winner's song. He got 14 in the groove. Now set right tight, watch him move. And if his car is running right, he will take it all again tonight.
See? And he's the guy that wrote the poem for Ronald Reagan.
He is.
And sent a poem
That's
to Ronald
awesome.
Reagan through Martin's Drugstore to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So I thought that's a cool
awesome.
tie-in.
I remember the poems. I had forgotten about it, but when you brought that up, I remember those. Yep.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
so I guess, and you look through these, just this alone, about the amount of races that Chuck Piazza won in the B&G Motors car.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole separate discussion, and there's an article in one of them about Chuck Piazza.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find it here, but your family, it was just synonymous with that era of motorsports, kind of like how mine was earlier than 75, been from when these were made, but. It's just amazing to be able to find something like this and tie it into the show, and very appreciative of being able to get these. So I guess when you were driving, tell us a little bit about that. Like, where all did you get to run at? And
that was quite an adventurous time in my life for sure. I was started racing when I was around 8 or 9 years old, I guess, in go-karts, like competitively. I'd been driving before that, but that's started out in the kart series, running dirt carts. And of course, like with everything we do, you don't just stay here and have fun with it. We have to go all out, and so we went from Florida to New Hampshire to Iowa to you name it, racing carts all over the East Coast, and eastern part of the United States with the WKA series. I actually won about 4 or 5 national titles and a world championship in '96 when I was 15. I did that for a while, and then we got to where we started running some of the bigger tracks like Hickory on the asphalt, and I mean the speeds were insane. We went to Hickory and ran the go-karts up there, and we were like 2 seconds faster than the Busch cars at the time we're running. So my dad, who'd raced his whole life, was like, he couldn't even watch it. He goes, if you're going to do that, you're going this fast, you're going to have a cage around you. So when I was 15, 16 as far as NASCAR knows, I started racing out at Concord in the mini stock division, and I kind of went from there into the late models and we did some truck racing for a while. I actually won quite a lot of races out at Concord out there. My dad raced out there, so it was cool just to be able to have that connection. Ran in the Hooters Pro Cup series. It's didn't really exist anymore. I guess it's the K&N ARCA series now, but kind of the precursor to that. A lot of people don't realize this, but that's actually where the whole chase format kind of started, was that deal, because they had a North Tour and a South Tour, and we'd come together at the end of the year and run like 5 races. But I mean, you had drivers like Clay Rogers, Reagan Smith, Bobby Gill. I mean, there's a lot of big names that are in NASCAR now. Matt McCall, Rodney Childers, John Wood, that all kind of came through that series. So a great series to be a part of. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was obviously a full-time job for sure, and made it all the way up into ran a couple Busch races here and there, but nothing to really.
Right.
It's the O'Reilly series now, but.
No, that's pretty cool. I want to go back to your go-karting real quick. You talked about those speeds at Hickory. Are these the type, and I don't know if you've seen them, I've seen the video from like the 1970s or early 80s with Lake Speed, who another Kannapolis resident here, and would race a go-kart on the high banks of Daytona. And this is one of those go-karts where they're almost laying back.
Those were enduros. I've driven a couple of those, never raced those. But those were kind of the precursor to it. They ran a 2-cycle engine. We were always we ran the 4-cycle stuff, more of what we call a sit-up kart. You're still kind of laying down, but not quite to that extent. But they'd put huge bodies on these things, and we would just draft. I mean, we'd run Rockingham, we'd run the big track at Daytona, and the guys in front would wiggle, and just the air going by that thing would make yours move. I mean, you wouldn't even have to turn the wheel. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, I got to experience a lot. Did some testing with like Petty Enterprises and Evernham Motorsports. Did a lot with the driving school for Petty at the time, and I got to travel the world, see a lot of cool places, and get paid to drive race cars. So I mean, it was not a bad gig at all.
Man,
awesome.
Man, that is pretty cool. I'd love to talk more about your racing, and then we could spend hours doing that. But did you ever give us some fun stories? Just something we can have a little fun with. Did you ever get rough talked or rough talk somebody on the track?
Goodness. Oh goodness gracious, yeah. Where do we start with that one? One of the funniest stories, and these guys are local, so I won't mention any names, but. At the time, we called them the Rhino Boys. They owned a little kart shop and built some chassis and stuff. And I would drive some off weekends, Sunday afternoons and things. We'd run some local races with them. And they called them the Rhino Boys because these were not little guys. They were pretty big boys. And I could get out there, and I was like 14 or 15 at the time, and was invincible, didn't know any better. And I knew driving for them, I could do whatever I wanted to do. I'd get really dirty and a little rough on the track and push people around, and they'd want to come over and have a conversation about it after the race. And there's a couple of times they just get picked up by the back of their neck and kind of carried off somewhere and dropped off. And I kind of had my built-in bodyguards there. So that was kind of one of the funnier stories. But I've never been a little guy myself, so I never had a whole lot of problems at the track. But tried to keep it clean. Once I got older and kind of grew up a little bit mature, just like, that's not the way you're supposed to do this. But, when you could get away with it, you had fun with it when you were a kid. So
what a childhood.
Yeah. I'm looking at today's short track series and short track racing. And unfortunately, I feel like it's dominated by people that have money and, big industry, big teams, farm teams, people that come down from Cup Series that, build small teams. And, it's who has money and who don't, I guess. And it's always been that way, even way back when. But I feel like it's magnified, like the gap in between them is not that small anymore. But, I hear stories of today where you've got these young 14, probably even 12, 13, 14-year-olds racing super late models. And then you've got guys probably my age that's also up there doing it. And there's a big rift between them sometimes. And sometimes the 40-some-year-old guy is kind of hard to go fight a little kid.
Exactly.
But and it becomes a rift. But, I mean, that's got to be a weird scenario, situation to be in.
And I'll be honest with you, I mean, that's trickled all the way down into the lower levels. I mean, we've got – and the one thing I will say is a lot of the kids nowadays, to your point, there is a lot of money involved. Racing is an expensive sport, so you've got to have that funding to be able to make it to the next level and step up. And there's guys at these local tracks that are some of the best drivers you'll ever see, but they're never going to get that chance to make it. And it's always been that way. You really got to break through, and it gets harder and harder by the day. But I mean, even out at Millbridge, we're Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, all these guys with these Cup guys that have the funding and have the backing and to experience driving these cars and winning races everywhere. Their kids are racing out there. So I'm out there with my daughter. Obviously don't have the same, backing that some of those guys do. So it's always an uphill battle to try to break in at any level of racing. And, it's nothing against those guys. I mean, they're doing exactly what they should be doing. And I'm actually appreciative in a lot of ways on the flip side of that, because they are taking their kids out to these go-kart tracks and bringing them up the right way. So when they get to that age, they're going to have that experience. They're not waiting on them to turn 15 or 16 and throw them in an ARCA car. So from that, that side of it, I am appreciative that they are doing it the right way. But it is a hard thing to break through for sure.
Yeah. They always said slot car racing is the cheapest form of racing to get into. So,
and it ain't cheap.
I've wrecked a few of yours over the years.
Yes, you have.
Wow.
But then I guess after you stopped racing, then you got into the kind of the motorsports or the promotional side of things.
I did. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and your history in that from that standpoint.
So got out of racing. Got married, had a kid, had two kids, and it was just the travel and you got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm 26 years old. It's just not it's not in the cards. We're not going to do this. You're just not going to get to where you wanted to get originally. So it's time to get a real job, so to speak. I was actually fortunate, obviously, with being in racing as long as I did. I went to work with the Charlotte Checkers hockey team for a while. Did some stuff for them on the promotional side. Kind of got away from it. My dad owned some real estate, and I was managing that, helping him with that. But all my friends, everybody knew was at the track. I mean, my mom and dad met at the track. I didn't know anybody outside. Everybody knew was at the racetrack. So I was fortunate enough to get in with a company called Hirschfield Marketing Solutions. The guy that owns it, Todd Hirschfield, actually was a good friend of mine that had raced in the Hooters Pro Cup series with me. He had started a marketing company, actually doing like tailgate tournaments at some of the racetracks over the years, and got in with him. There were like 5 or 6 employees when we started, and I was there for 14 years, and I was a creative director for a while, and I had a blast just designing stuff. I mean, we did Super Bowls, World Series, Anheuser-Busch, Monster Energy was one of our clients. We went to the Daytona 500 and won the race with Monster Energy on the car, and had Gronk there with us, and so just a lot of really cool stuff outside of that whole racing background just kind of fell in my lap, honestly, from just that experience and the connections I had from that.
And then, then after that is when you started into the insurance thing, right?
Yeah. So 2 years ago now, I guess my wife and I had started during COVID. She was in the corporate world too, actually working for a different marketing company. And so when all the layoffs happened, she actually got laid off, and we had been talking about doing something for ourselves for a while. So just kind of picking our brains of what we wanted to do. So her and I actually started a commercial cleaning business, and she still runs and manages that today. We've got contracts with a lot of developers in the area, getting houses clean to go on the market and that kind of thing. So she still runs that, very successful with that. And
what's that called?
Fresh Wave Cleaning. That's her business.
Fresh Wave
Cleaning, yeah. So and she's based here in Kannapolis locally. So we had that going for a while, and I was still doing the marketing thing. And then I've always been kind of an entrepreneurial spirit, like to kind of do my own thing and blaze my own path, and had an opportunity to come along to kind of start my own insurance business and get contracted with a great company to be able to fulfill that and keep it moving. So been doing that for a couple of years now, and based out of the city down yonder.
Down yonder.
I won't say it for you. Right there on
props for saying it that
no
way.
Problem. Right there on Branchview Drive is my office, and it's going great, doing really good. So enjoying it. Got our hands full though, for sure. 2 businesses. So
you do home, auto,
and life, and I'll say this just to give a little pitch. It's the home and auto thing is obviously everybody needs that. That's what you need. But to me, the life insurance is the most important. I got into this business because I wanted to work in my community, not travel the world everywhere like I was doing, and help people here. And to me, the life insurance is the most important thing. I've seen horror stories where, we see it every day where somebody passes away unexpectedly and their families are struggling to, figure out where you're going to live next month.
Yep.
And I've seen the flip side of that too, where, you're mourning the loss of a loved one unexpectedly, but the house is now paid for. They got some fun there for the kids to go to college. So it's a huge thing. And 80% of the United States is undercovered when it comes to that. I mean, it's, everybody thinks they got it at work, $100,000 policy. And that's great. Get as much of that as you can. But in this day and age, if you've got 2 vehicles that are brand new sitting in your driveway, that $100,000 is not even going to pay those cars off. So sure. It's a huge thing that everybody needs to have. And if you've gone a house or have kids, or even if you're married, that's just something you need to have for sure.
No doubt. So Chris, if people here watching the K-Town Connection, or people here in the community, if they want to find you and they want to talk to you about their life insurance or insurance in general, where can they find you? Do you have a number or a website or anything you can throw out there?
Absolutely, yeah. You can obviously call my office, 704-788-1119. I'll give you my cell number. 704-956-9782. Everybody's got insurance now. Tell me how many of you have your own agent's cell phone number. There you go. Most of you don't. So you got mine now. Give me a call if you need any help at all. And again, it's not a sales pitch. If you don't have life insurance, get it from somebody. Even if it's not from me.
Absolutely.
Just get it because it's super important to have. But if I can help you with any way, shape, or form, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely. Chuck, did you hang out at the short tracks any when you was young?
I went to I guess it's Concord, the fur track there off Poplar Tent for the Saturday nights, where Zamosa is now.
Yeah.
Enjoyed that. But once they moved down 601, I didn't venture down that way. But really enjoyed the, I guess, mid-70s, late 60s, early 70s at Concord with the furs. Now that was...
Everybody loved that old track.
They did. And it was not the same when they moved south.
Totally different track.
That's true.
Chris, what's your earliest memories of being at the racetrack?
Oh my goodness! So the earliest memory I have at the racetrack is, again, it was Metrolina Speedway. I actually got a couple. I got two that are around the same time frame. My earliest one would be Metrolina Speedway. My granddad owned the track, was promoting it at the time. I was a baby. I was in the suite. I'm doing quotations. I was in the suite. So there's no glass in the front of this thing. It has got a roof on it. You're at the top of the bleachers. There's no glass. So the dirt's coming in. I remember there's orange and yellow shag carpeting, just steps. Like there's no seats up there. It's just basically steps built into the ground with orange. And I'm just crawling around like a maniac running wild up there. Cars are going by. I mean, that's my earliest memory. The second memory, my mom loves to tell this story. I don't remember. I want to say we were at Dublin or somewhere out towards the coast racing the dirt tracks. And my dad would tour around with that NDRA series back then. And we were on top of the truck in the infield. I'm sure I probably got snuck in somehow because I definitely wasn't supposed to be in there. But I was probably 2 or 3 years old, standing on top of the truck watching the race. And something happened to my dad. He ends up launching off the track, leaves out of like turn 3, barrel rolls off the backstretch out into the parking lot. And I just remember grabbing my mom going, "Hey, Dad's gone." They're watching the race, really not paying me any attention. Yeah, okay, whatever. And it took about a lap to realize, okay, he's not on the track anymore. And I'm like, no, he's gone. He's over there. So lo and behold, the caution comes out, race stops, and a little bit later, a couple minutes later, you see my dad walking back up over the hill, crossing the racetrack, and he tells the story. He loved to tell the story. He had a Timex watch on in the race car. Somehow or another, in all the flipping, that Timex watch had come off, was stuck in the dirt. Cars had been running over it under caution for 4 or 5 laps, and it was still ticking. So he gave a huge plug to Timex watches with that one.
Take a lick and keep
30 years
on
there,
ticking.
so.
Wow, that's
Took
crazy.
a licking and kept on ticking for sure. But he loved to tell that one.
So you raced at Concord down on 601.
Yeah, I raced at 601. I was a couple years behind the one at Zamosa, but I'd love to have seen that one in person.
Yeah.
I love that track at Concord. That tri-oval little dog leg on the back.
Favorite.
That was a fast track.
It was. Everybody always said if you could run races there and not kill yourself at Concord at that place, you could pretty much go anywhere and race. And I've driven a lot of tracks doing the testing and traveling around racing, and it's true. Like if you can get around that place, you can pretty much go anywhere and get around it.
But that was the dirt.
It was dirt.
I mean, that community was known for the dirt. I mean, it was in the perfect place where that dirt just got, the more you went, the slicker it got, and it was just totally, it was just, you know how you have different dirts and different area, clay. And
I remember at one point back in the 80s, I think when he first built that track, it was a dirt track. It's a 4/10 mile oval back then before they put the dog leg in after it went asphalt. But some of the neighbors were giving him a hard time, and he threatened to turn it into a hog farm if they didn't like the noise. They said the snow would be twice as bad. So there's an article about that in one of these papers. It's always fun to read.
One of these days, I want to get Freddie Query on here because I was actually a student in Freddie's class when he taught electrical trades at South Orlando back in the 90s. So, you know, basically our class was a short track racing class. So he would bring the trailer in. We helped wire one of his new racing trailers one time, and you know just every class, you know, we'd get him talking about short track racing, and next thing you know, the bell's ringing, and you know, we did a lot of racing talk in there. But you know, I loved watching in those days growing up, Freddie and Jack Sprague and Rich Bickle, and you know, all those guys. I mean, I thought Concord was the center of the short track universe back in them days,
and it wasn't. And Freddie's a good friend of ours, and even Jack Sprague. So my dad ran in that Big Ten series back in the late '80s, early '90s with those guys when it was the asphalt track out there. And man, that was. I mean, some of the names you just named off. I mean, some of these guys are NASCAR royalty now. I mean, really, you got Rich Bickle, and I mean, Mike Thomas came through there, Freddie Query,
Arnie Irvin,
Bobby Gill, Ernie Irvin. I mean, so Bobby Labonte was one of the races out there. So And I was again a toddler, 7, 8 years old, but I've got pictures of me and my dad winning some of those super late model races out there that are super precious to me because of the guys you had to outrun to win those races was huge.
Wow. Well, it's an amazing story, and I remember watching races on Metro Channel 7 or 13,
7, 12, 13.
Changed.
Pick one.
Yeah, and Steve Gant,
Randy
all
Whitley.
those guys.
Steve's actually my neighbor. I've been telling him we need to digitize all
right.
those races. He lives right down the street from me. I'm on them all. I was like, we need to get all those races and digitize. I think Mike Kerman was we were all trying to get involved in that at one point to try to digitize some of that.
I would love to help you out with that.
I would
It's
say
a
Mike
great
Herman
program.
won a ton of races down there at that place.
Oh, he did. He did.
You know, we could set a screen up right here and just have a watch party with all those guys
I would be
in
down.
this
that'd be
historic
cool.
shop watching races from the 90s. That would be really cool. We might have to make that happen. We'll crack
You let
open
me
some
know on
SunDrop.
Yeah.
Before we talk any further, do you play any pickleball?
I don't. My wife's been trying to get me to do it for a while, and we've talked about it. We played tennis for a while just to try to keep my girlish figure intact, but have not gotten to the pickleball thing. I got a lot of friends that have done it, but have not broken through that screen yet.
Well, you ought to go down to the Carolina Pickleball Club and see our good friends down there. Tell them that me and Ryan sent you. We have a great time down there. That is one of the hidden gems in this town. So everybody should go down there and play some pickleball. But to shift gears, so you grew up off of, I think it's South Main Street.
Yeah, I actually grew up off of, at the time it was Boy Scout Camp Road.
Okay.
So it's now Kannapolis Parkway. We had a 14-acre farm there that was originally a goat farm. It was the Fink Goat Farm when my parents bought it in the early 90s. And that's where our race shop was. I had a little house in the front, probably 1,800 square foot house and a 4,000 square foot race shop behind
I
it.
know
So
exactly what you're talking about.
that was my claim to fame, right across the street from the Boy Scout camp.
Yep.
I'll never forget. I was actually telling the story last night at the baseball game at Northwest Cabarrus. I lived walking distance, and I started school a little bit earlier than everybody else, so I didn't get my license till junior year of high school, and the school had already started. But I was going to drive my car to school, so I got the last parking space out there, almost to where Kannapolis Parkway is now, literally. I would drive a 32nd of a mile from my house to the parking place, and then walk a half a mile from the parking space to the school.
In other words, it was closer to walk from home.
Yeah.
But you were
I was driving that car.
You were driving.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. I've got very fond memories of, being out there at Camp Cabarrus growing up.
Oh, yeah.
And, back in those days, and I was in a Boy Scout troop up there off of West C Street at Bethpage Methodist, and we would walk. We'd do a little 5-mile hike. It was 5 miles exactly out Miller Road and Tuckasegee Road out that way to Camp Cabarrus. And, that was a long 2-lane road. That seemed like the longest 2-lane road in America when you had a little kid out there hiking it.
Yeah, it was, and to look at it now and just try to remember what it looked like. I mean, we're not even 15, 20 years ago. I mean,
I know it's just hard to envision
oh my goodness,
how you got to the scout camp out there.
When my wife and I got married in 2011, in 07, 08, when she was coming up, she was living in South Carolina, she would come up to visit me, and you couldn't even get off you'd get off the interstate, and you would have to go wind up by Rowan Cabarrus. You couldn't even go down to Kannapolis Parkway and turn. It didn't even go through.
Right.
We're talking 12 years ago.
Had to go by Angelo's.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's just the way that area has changed in the past few years. It's rapidly growing and expanding.
Funny story. High school, 11th grade year, I worked at Angelo's.
How about that?
Did you really? I love that place.
I worked
man.
at
Angelo's
Angelo's.
Fish.
Louis was the boss. I can't remember Louis
Great
after
salad
Angelo,
bar.
but that was
Oh,
a
yeah,
great
salad bar.
place.
They used to pack them in.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that was a
So I'll
great,
tell
great
you,
place.
when I was a kid, I had my license, so we're not talking. I mean, I'm an old guy. I got a grandkid now, but not that long ago. I was 16, 17 years old, living over there off Boy Scout Camp Road. We would order a pizza. This is how far out that area was back then, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. We would order a pizza, and I would have to drive out to the gas station at Angelo's to meet the pizza guy. They wouldn't come out that far.
How about that?
And I mean, now there's a Pizza Hut a quarter of a mile away on the same road. So
Growing up in Enochville, the other side of Enochville, out towards Dill Road, out that way, same way. If you wanted a pizza,
Yeah.
you'd either drive into town to
to
get
meet
it,
'em.
or they'd have to meet somebody.
Go to the
Same way with the cable.
Yeah, we didn't have cable.
The cable was just in town. Even though what we consider the city now, that was country back then, and
Right.
they went. If you didn't have a outdoor antenna and rotary TV,
we had the big,
remember
we had
well.
the big satellite, 8-foot satellite.
Only if he's rich.
Yeah, that whole deal.
No real guy had satellite, I promise you.
Oh man. man.
Man.
Well, that's been a great show.
Yeah,
What do you think?
This has been great. Chris, any other who is your racing heroes? I know we talked a little bit about Dale and stuff, but who were the guys that you really idolized? And it could have been short track guys, cup guys, whoever, but who were the guys that you think helped mold and shape your career?
So obviously my dad was a huge influence. My grandfather, just coming from that lineage. Dale was a big influence because, like I said, him and my dad were friends. So he actually did a lot for me behind the scenes, just helping us with this and that to kind of, to get me to a certain point. Jeff Gordon growing up, just because I was a kid and had the same last name, so there was a connection there, obviously. And there, there's a lot of guys that came before me that I watched, like you said, the Freddie Queries, those kind of guys that I just learned from. And there was some Bobby Gill in the Hooters Pro Cup series. We were bitter rivals and got in, heated every time we were on the racetrack together. But I learned so much from those guys, just running wheel to wheel with them as a 17-year-old kid, and the experience that they had. I mean, they raced with my dad, so here I am racing wheel to wheel with them. You pick up so much from all those guys that came before you that you just try to take the best of all of it and put it to your into your craft.
Well, like the guy that gave us these newsletters, he worked for Bobby Gill after he left Hayward. He was on his crew, went all over with him.
Yeah,
he was telling somebody. Well, when I talked to him. So.
You mentioned that Dale kind of helped you out kind of behind the scenes. If you don't mind, like, what's some of the advice or some of the help that he gave you?
Well, I mean, him and my dad, I said, we're friends. They'd go hunting together and fishing, that kind of thing. And just the biggest thing with that was just be yourself, be who you are. Don't try to be anybody different. Be humble about it. But when you get on the racetrack, you got no friends, and you're there for business. Take it seriously.
That's what he did.
That's a good point.
A lot of people growing up, honestly, I word this the right way, but I got a little bit of a bad rep growing up because I was at the track and I was so serious. All the other kids around throwing footballs, we're all 12, 13 years old, and I'm there for one reason and one reason only. But so, you kind of got this thing of like, he's got his, his butt on his shoulders and he doesn't want to talk to anybody. He's antisocial. I got all that stuff, but I was there for one reason. And honestly, I think a lot of that was, my success was due to that, because I was there, I was locked in on what I was doing, and my dad wouldn't have it any other way. Like, if you're not here for that, he's not going to hang out either. So,
right.
I think it's Joey Logano that said this. I'm not sure. I hope I'm not attributing it to the wrong guy, but he talked about the fact that, I think it was him, that too many of the drivers are just too friendly with each other, and he tries not to have any friends. He says, I bring my friends with me to the track. I'm not going to the track to make friends. I use that all the time. I brought everybody I need with me. I'm not here to make friends. And I mean, the great part about racing is it is a family. It's a huge family. And you're talking about Bobby Gill. I mean, one of my good friends I've known him my whole life, Matt McCall. He's over at Spire Motorsports now. Has been a crew chief in the Cup Series. Me and that guy would race wheel to wheel in go-karts and late models all the time. Fight, argue, and then we would get out and go eat dinner together and go to the beach together. I mean, the next day, like, that's just because we knew how to leave it on the track, and that's how a lot of those guys in my generation coming up were. You could go kill each other on the track, but you left it there, and now we're good. We're going to hang out in the pool next morning and hang out. And so to me, that's what's so great about racing, is that camaraderie, the connections you make and the people you meet, and it is a huge family, as you guys know. It never goes away. All right, I think that says it all right there. Chris Gordon, thank you for coming here and spending this time with us here on the K-Town Connection episode. I got it right, 66. Again, people can find you with Chris Gordon Insurance down there on Branchview Road in that town down yonder. And we just appreciate you for what you do, not just for coming on the show with us, but what you do for your community. You talk about getting into the insurance business for your community. I can tell you're a bright man. You could be doing a lot of things to make a lot of money in other avenues. The fact that your wife, y'all want to give back to this town, I think that means a lot.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Rowan and Cabarrus County,
the whole state of North Carolina.
Whole state of North Carolina.
I tell them I've got them from Murphy to Manteo, so come see me and we'll take care of it.
There you go.
Thank you for being here. Very interesting story.
Thank you.
Come back anytime.
Absolutely, guys. Well, I think that's going to put another bow on the K-Town Connection. Rough Talk Ryan, that was a good one. Any final thoughts for you?
I'm good. I'll keep reading these newsletters.
That's true. Put them in the bathroom.
I don't want them to get wet.
You're opening a Pandora's box with that one.
Well, we're going to stay on Baby Watch for you. Hopefully you'll be back and do some episodes with us next week. I'm going to have to find a replacement if you're not here.
Yeah, we'll do something, or maybe I'll have a fill-in.
Maybe.
For a little bit. Who knows?
Or maybe, Chuck, you might be able to get the big seat. I don't know. I think you like your seat. I don't know.
Chuck's looking pretty comfortable over here. Yeah.
I'm for whatever.
Now I hear you. Any final thoughts?
No, I've enjoyed it today. Chris has got a lot of, for a young man of his age, he is
Very wise.
He is.
Yes.
He's got a lot of good stories, and his faith is in the right direction. And good luck to you and your dog.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we've been blessed, and we couldn't ask for anything more. So I appreciate it, guys.
I can tell you're
Thank
going to be a staple, a community leader in this community for many years, and we appreciate you for that. But anyway, that's episode 66 here in the books, K-Town Connection. For Rough Talk Ryan, Dayvault, Chuck, Dr. Dave Irvin, and Chris Gordon, thank you. That's going to do it.
Yep.
3 for Dale.
3 for Dale.
3 for Dale.
What?
Here it goes.
What?
Where's it going?
Dang, it didn't get upside right. Right side up.
You're losing your touch.
I am. Are we calling anybody on the phone?
You're Steve Gant's neighbor.
I am. He lives right up the street from me.
Steve Gant's the best. We love Steve. He's welcome any day of the week.
Good show.